In 1939, one Finnish sniper would ultimately change the rules of the game, developing innovative techniques that are still in practice. This is the story of Simo Häyhä and how his century-old tactics still haunt the modern battlefield. So how does a farmer from 1939 still influence elite snipers today? We're going to break down 4 of his tactics. The story of his triumph begins with Finland on the brink of collapse. In the winter of 1939, the Soviet Union, a titan of a nation, invaded. On paper, it was a laughable mismatch. Stalin threw a gargantuan force at the tiny country, nearly 1 million men, thousands of tanks, and thousands of aircraft. The world expected Finland to be crushed in weeks, if not days, but the world didn't account for men like Simo Häyhä. His unique background would ultimately change the fate of the war. But where did it all begin? Häyhä was just a quiet farmer and hunter, a man of the forest. He was short, standing at just 5 feet 3, unassuming and soft-spoken. But he was also a gifted marksman, winning countless shooting competitions with his Finnish Mosin Nagant rifle, the Sako M28-30. He had an almost supernatural ability to judge distance, a skill he'd mastered over years of hunting in the wilderness. When the call to arms came, this quiet farmer answered. Deployed to the Kola River, Häyhä and his countrymen faced temperatures that dropped to 40 degrees below zero. For the invading Soviet soldiers in their dark, heavy uniforms, the stark white landscape was a killing field. For Simo Häyhä, it was his hunting ground. Day after day, he'd pull on his white camouflage, grab a day's worth of food, a handful of ammunition, and just disappear into the snow. In under 100 days, Häyhä was credited with over 500 confirmed kills with his rifle, an average of over 5 kills a day, in a season where daylight itself was a precious, fleeting thing. The psychological impact on the Red Army was devastating. Soviet soldiers started talking about a phantom, an invisible force they called Belaya Smert, the White Death. So how did he do it? How could one man with such simple equipment be so catastrophically effective? It wasn't supernatural. It was a combination of deep knowledge, iron discipline, and a set of ingenious tactics that are still studied by elite snipers today. So how does a farmer from 1939 still influence elite snipers today? We're going to break down 4 of his tactics, and for each one you'll see the clever trick he invented, then discover how modern snipers use the same principle. Häyhä had the worst equipment of any elite sniper in history, and that's exactly what made him unstoppable. It all started with his no-scope philosophy. Häyhä refused to use a telescopic scope, relying only on his rifle's iron sights. This decision was pure tactical brilliance. In the extreme cold, a scope lens would fog up or frost over, making it useless. Even worse, the glare of the sun off a lens could be a beacon, instantly giving away a sniper's position. By using the simple metal sights, Häyhä kept his profile incredibly low. He literally didn't have to raise his head as high, making him a much smaller target. That philosophy is still alive today. Today's US Marine Corps Scout Sniper program dedicates an entire phase of training called unknown distance shooting, where candidates must engage targets using only their backup iron sights. No optics, no rangefinders, no technology. This isn't nostalgia. It's Häyhä's lesson encoded into curriculum. Legacy number 2, Master of Concealment. A sniper who depends solely on technology is a liability when that technology fails. The most dangerous thing about Simo Häyhä wasn't his rifle, it was his breath, or rather, the fact that you could never see it. He was a master of concealment. Simo Häyhä didn't just wear white, he became part of the winter landscape. He developed several incredibly clever, low-tech tricks to stay invisible. One of the most famous was putting snow in his mouth. In the freezing air, your breath turns into a visible cloud of vapor, a dead giveaway. By holding snow in his mouth, Häyhä cooled his breath until it was invisible. Imagine that, a simple, brilliant trick that shows his incredible attention to the smallest details. This exact technique appears in modern training. The US Army Sniper course at Fort Moore teaches breath discipline not just for shot stability, but for signature reduction. In their winter warfare module, instructors specifically teach techniques for managing breath vapor, breathing through fabric, timing breaths with wind gusts, and yes, using snow to cool exhaled air. Canadian JTF-2 snipers, who regularly operate in Arctic conditions, are trained in the same methods Häyhä pioneered. Legacy number 3, position preparation. Before Häyhä ever pulled the trigger, he'd spend precious minutes disturbing the very snow that kept him hidden. It sounds like madness. It was genius. Before shooting, he would pack down the snow in front of his rifle barrel. This was to prevent the muzzle blast from kicking up a spray of loose snow, another tiny visual cue that could reveal his hiding spot. Modern snipers call this position preparation in today's world. The British Long-Range Reconnaissance and Surveillance Manual dedicates an entire section to preparing firing positions for various terrains, clearing fields of fire, managing vegetation, and critically controlling debris that could be disturbed by muzzle blast. Desert snipers are taught to wet down sand in front of their position for the exact same reason Häyhä packed snow. A dust signature can be spotted from kilometers away. Legacy number 4, the hunter's mindset. Häyhä had zero formal sniper training. That untrained background became his greatest tactical advantage. Häyhä was a hunter long before he was a soldier. He understood the rhythms of the forest and the patterns of his prey. He had an instinct for fieldcraft that no military academy could ever teach. But here's the thing, military sniping existed before Häyhä. What he did was demonstrate, with unprecedented effectiveness, that the hunter's mindset, patience, environmental mastery, prey behavior prediction, was more valuable than any amount of formal military training. This revelation transformed sniper selection worldwide. After World War II, military organizations began actively recruiting hunters, trackers, and outdoorsmen for sniper programs. The U.S. Marine Corps Scout Sniper Program specifically looks for candidates with hunting backgrounds. The reasoning is explicit in their doctrine. Hunters already understand concealment, stalking, wind reading, and most importantly, the patience to wait for the perfect shot. Modern sniper training spends more time on fieldcraft than marksmanship. The U.S. Army's Sniper Manual dedicates entire chapters to navigation, observation, stalking, and hide construction, skills that have more in common with a hunter like Häyhä than a traditional soldier. The famous stalking phase of Scout Sniper School, where candidates must crawl for hours to reach a firing position without being spotted by instructors with optics, is a direct acknowledgement of Häyhä's lesson. Shooting is the easy part. Getting into position without being detected is the real art. In the military world, Simo Häyhä is more than a legend. He's a foundational case study. His performance is taught in military academies across the globe as the ultimate example of how one highly skilled individual can have a massive strategic impact. He proved that a sniper's value isn't just in the number of enemies they kill, but in the terror and chaos they create, crippling an army's morale. He showed that the person behind the rifle is infinitely more important than the rifle itself. Häyhä mastered the art of turning limitations into advantages. No scope became an asset. Simple snow became camouflage perfection. But sometimes in war, the biggest advantage comes from the biggest mistake. June 6, 1944, Utah Beach. The first wave landed over a mile off target. A catastrophic error that should have been a death sentence. Instead, one 56-year-old general with a cane looked at the wrong beach and made a decision that would save 21,000 lives. Tap the video on screen now to see how Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt Jr. turned D-Day's worst navigation failure into its greatest success, proving that sometimes being lost is exactly where you need to be.